MacVoices is supported by ExpressVPN. Secure your surfing at expressvpn.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is a talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, we had a request from someone asking about Apple's Health app. And I suddenly realized that, yes, I've opened the Health app. Yes, I'm familiar with some of what it does, but I've really never dug into it a lot. So I started asking around for someone that has spent some time in it. And guess what? Jeff Gamet has spent a whole lot of time in the Health app. And so we're going to ask him to guide us through it a little bit. Jeff, welcome. It's great to see you.
It's great to be here. And I find it fascinating out of our whole community that I'm the guy for this.
Well, Jeff, we were talking pre-show. I contacted a number of people, some people I thought might be obvious choices. And I was like, no, I really haven't spent much time, or I really don't like it, and so therefore I don't use it. And yeah, it really surprised me too. I mean, I think everybody is familiar with, the walking, standing, move goals and all that stuff. But I was surprised that more people haven't dug into it. And then I started doing a little Google search, and sort of the same thing. There have been a number of cursory articles, but very little that really digs in deep.
Yeah, I find that fascinating, especially because there's so much in the Health app. And yet I encounter people, actually, now that I think about it, just a couple days ago, I was out and I overheard two people talking about the Health app, and it was obvious that these people had been using iPhones for a long time, and the one person had just discovered the Health app, and they were talking as if this was a brand new thing. They didn't know how recently Apple added it in, but it's so crazy because look at all the stuff that's in here.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, wow, that's really crazy that they didn't even know this major feature was on their phone. And then I realized, no, actually what's really crazy is not that they didn't know, but that Apple obviously has not done a good job of making features like this obvious to people so that they know it's there. I mean, the Health app is not new. And yet, even just a couple days ago, I was encountering people who thought that Apple just kind of slipped it in on their phone recently.
And I have to wonder if part of that is what you said. I mean, but Apple has a bit of a history of that. They build these really cool apps, and they never seem to really do a good job of getting the publicity out there about all their capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we can go right down the list. One of the most recent ones that I can think of is Notes. It's a fantastic little app. It's built into your Mac and to your iPhone and everywhere else. But it's got all these great capabilities, but it really doesn't get a lot of press. But the other thing is that the Apple Watch seems to take so much of the health press, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you'd think with the Apple Watch being front and center in Apple's health and fitness initiative, that we would be seeing a lot more about the Health app on your iPhone, because as we all know, you can't have an Apple Watch without an iPhone. It is still ultimately an iPhone accessory. So with all the health and fitness push on the watch, why are we not seeing a bigger push for the Health app? And I know there are a lot of people right now, because I know there are like millions of people that watch each episode you do, and rightly so. But so there have to be at least 1 million people at this very moment that are saying, wait, have you looked at the Health app page on Apple's website? And it's there and it's great. But ultimately, there's a lot of people that never see that.
2 million, Jeff. 2 million.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so introduce us to the health app through your experiences. I mean, why did you decide to start digging into it? Was it purely out of journalistic interest as while you were with the Mac Observer, or was it for your own use and health?
It was both. Initially, I wanted to see what the health app did and what it offered, because until the health app came along and the Apple Watch came along, I was a very hardcore Fitbit user. And so I was using Fitbit's app, which acts as a sort of data silo, just like the health app does. And with that, I was able to have all of this health information. Well, actually, really just fitness information, because it had my step counts. It had how many flights of stairs I'd walked each day. I could link my scale in, so it was tracking my weight for me, because I was able to use the sleep function on my Fitbit. I was doing a very rudimentary sleep tracking. And so ultimately, I had a lot of data that I had been tracking for years. And I wanted to see how Apple's health app compared to what Fitbit offered. And what I found was that it offered everything that I needed, and it had the benefit or the bonus of being something where depending on your healthcare provider, you could then share information out to your doctor. And that whole notion I thought was very fascinating. And I just had a feeling at the time that because of the way Apple was making the health app open to everyone, that we would start seeing a lot of interesting data getting pumped into there. And now here we are a few years later, and with Apple Watch Series 4, in the health app, I have my step count. I have how many flights of stairs I've climbed each day. I have my scale sending my weight in there, and my scale will also do body mass index, and it does my heart rate, and all of that data is getting dumped right in there. And gosh, there's so much data that's going in. I can't even keep track of all of it now. But now that we have Apple Watch Series 4, I mean, I have really detailed heart data that's going directly into this app. And when Apple Watch came out and I switched over to that, I actually walked away from years and years of my own fitness data, because Fitbit is refusing to support Apple's health app. They want to be completely siloed and keep everyone that they possibly can in their own ecosystem. And so I walked away. And I've encountered a lot of people that did the same thing. They really liked the Fitbit products, and they really didn't want to lose all the data that they had, but they walked away from it. And yes, there are tools that can get your Fitbit data out and manipulate it so you can put it into health. I just chose to not.
So I don't want to take us too much on a sidetrack, but I think that's really interesting, that because Apple has been talking a lot about their health initiatives, and just because they haven't been doing maybe such a great job of publicizing the capabilities of the health app doesn't mean that they haven't been leading the charge in a lot of ways with a number of different studies. Most of these, again, are related to the Apple Watch and the fact that that can gather data so easily because it's strapped on your wrist and you just don't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea, once again, it seems like a loser's ploy that in today's world, if you're gathering raw data, why would you try to silo it? I mean, that almost says, okay, if I'm going to have a choice between product A and product B, and product A is going to lock me out or lock up my data and make me jump through hoops to get it out, I'm probably going to seriously consider product B.
There was a time when that wasn't something we thought about very much. I mean, obviously, because that this is not a conversation we've had before. And you and I, we've talked about a lot of different things. But yes, we're at a point now where a growing number of us are looking at the data we're collecting or generating and wanting to know if it's completely siloed or if we can put it somewhere else if we need. And the health app, yes, getting everything back out can be a little bit cumbersome depending on what data you want to get out. Like if you wanted to move it to another platform. Right. But yes, you can do it. And the fact that we have a system that feels more open, both for data collection, but data dissemination, that's really appealing. And mixing that together so it's health and fitness data, which I really never felt like I was getting all of that with Fitbit. Man, that's just a winning scenario. It was actually a very easy choice for me to walk away from all that Fitbit data and start living in the health app.
Yeah, our buddy Chuck Otornos was on the show talking about his situation, and I think we focused a little more on the Apple Watch, the fact that it was monitoring his heart, and it got him into a doctor, when he seemed to be having a few problems, and I don't want to put words in Chuck's mouth, but I think he pretty much attributes it to potentially saving his life, and so that's great. And it's the kind of thing we all should have sat up and took notice and said, hey, I need to explore the health app more. And then something distracted us and we didn't. And so.
Sure. It's, that's how we are.
Yeah.
But for me, it became a thing where I thought, there's a lot in here. And I'm really interested in the data that's being collected. And looking at it with the different charts that Apple has, I think it's a really nice way to look at all of that data that you're collecting.
Well, let's dig into the health app. I've got my phone here.
All right, I've got my phone here.
Yeah, we're folks. I mean, we are HIPAA compliant here at MacVoices, so we're not going to share any personal information. Maybe some screenshots, but that'll be about it. But Jeff, walk us through, I guess, where should we start in trying to explore this a little more?
Okay. First thing that I recommend you do, if you've never used the health app before, is launch it and tap Medical ID. That's the bottom button on the right.
Okay.
And make sure that you have your emergency. Seriously? Okay. I'm laughing because I'm looking at my health ID right now. And so the information that's in here is important because it's who you are. It's your birthday, your age. Make sure there's a photo of you in there as well so that they can hold the phone up and say, oh, yep, this one's Jeff. But then it also has allergies and your weight and height and your emergency contact. Right now, my allergies, it says kryptonite. It doesn't say dairy. Why in the world did I put kryptonite in there?
Because you are Jeff Gamet. That's why not?
All right. So here's another tip. If you've done something really lame, like put kryptonite as your allergy, upper right-hand corner, there's an edit button. Tap that. And, okay, let's go and change kryptonite to say dairy. Done. But there's a lot of data you can have in there. So medical conditions, the medications that you're currently on, your blood type, weight and height, organ donor. So there's a lot of stuff in there. Now, also there's an option to show your emergency contact information when your phone is locked. I have that enabled. And So if emergency services, first responders get my phone and they need to look at my emergency contact info, they'll see right there this basic data about me, including who they can call to let them know that they just found me on the side of the road. Or with me, who knows? That's probably how I will be found.
And, I do want to point out that there was a time that would have seemed a little presumptuous and almost one of those things that you put in your wallet, notify next of kin. But now the emergency responders really, they're aware that everybody has a phone, and they're trained to look for some of this stuff and how to access it on your phone and the other obviously popular models if it offers that kind of thing. So don't just poo-poo this as, oh well, I'll get around to it. That could be really critical information that if you have a significant health condition could save your life.
Sure. And different 911 systems, they can actually get some of this data when you place a call.
Interesting.
So that, I mean, this is important stuff. And even if you never do anything else with the health app, going in and making sure that your medical ID information is in there in case of an emergency, totally worth doing. And I bet you're going to set yours up right after we're done with the show.
Yes, you're right.
And just so you know, I wasn't saying that to be mean, but it illustrates how little people are paying attention to this. And even though Apple mentioned this in at least one keynote, it was just one of those many features that they showed and moved on to the next. They might have as well have been talking about how photos on the Mac can identify trees as well as people.
Yeah.
And it's just another cool feature, and they move on to the next thing.
Well, let's be honest about it. This is not the sexiest new feature that the health app is cool, but it's not the sexiest feature out there. And so you're going to be drawn to the other whiz-bang features always, before you do this. And so, maybe we take it to another extreme and just say, folks, why don't you hit pause on the video right now and go set up your health ID?
We'll be here when you get back.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it really is that important. And I'm thoroughly embarrassed that I have not done it. And it will be done after the show. You
don't need to be embarrassed. You're now the champion of the feature.
So now I'll walk around and say, have you filled out your health app? And then I will.
You're going to be in coffee shops.
Mm-hmm.
And you walked up to someone when you see they have an iPhone. Hey, have you filled out your emergency contact info in the health app?
Yeah, and then I will need the emergency contact info in the health app because they'll take a shot at me.
Yeah, but the great thing is it will already be filled out, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Jeff.
Sure thing. I've got your back.
So where do we go from here now that we're all updated and all our information is in?
Okay, check out the Today tab. Okay. And what's nice about the Today tab is that you get this nice little mix of information about your overall health activity. And if you have an Apple Watch, you know how you can look at the three rings, the blue, the green, and the red for your health and fitness activity for the day. You will see that on this page. So you have another place to look for this. Also, because it's data from multiple days, you can just tap the day and hop back and see how you performed over various days. But also, if you tap that black block where you see the rings, that takes you into charts. And so you can look at your overall activity, your move goal, your exercise goal, and your standing goal for the day or for a week and the month, or even the year. And you can jump back and forth, so you can see you can see a various range. So if you want to see how you performed last week or last month, you can look at all of that data. And I think the charts are nice. For me, having a visual like that is really useful, because I went to look at my overall trends with my health and fitness activity. And this is a great way to do that, because it also shows me my goals. So if I have fallen below one of the goals, I'll see how close I got to it. If I've gone over the goal, okay, sweet, I've gone over the goal. But being able to see that, I think, is really nice. And if you jump back, so in the upper left corner, there's the back arrow. If you tap that, it takes you back to that today screen. And all the little blocks that you'll see on that page, you can tap any of them and get the charts, just like you can do for that overall fitness. And one that I really like, and this is a place where the whole health thing is still really cool, and health gets really cool. I have it's no secret, I've had really bad sleep issues for a very long time. And it turns out that after doing a sleep study about a year ago, I have pretty bad sleep apnea. And so I now have an APAP machine that I use at night, which has dramatically improved my sleep. But I also got a hold of one of the sleep monitoring devices. So you know how your Fitbit, or actually you can get a sleep tracker app for your Apple Watch, and then your watch or whatever you're using, it's on your wrist, and use that to track your sleep patterns. Okay, we're going off on a little sidetrack here, but that's okay, because I think it'll help some people. Okay, so with the wrist-worn sleep trackers, those to me are really good for looking at your overall trends. Are you sleeping better? Are you sleeping worse? They're not good for tracking, here's when I was really sleeping, here's when I'm in REM sleep, here's when I'm light sleeping. They're not very good for that. And the reason I say that is because what they're doing is monitoring the movement of your not dominant arm. And so the idea is, when you're asleep, your non-dominant arm isn't moving as much as, say, your dominant arm. So the less motion you have, the more likely you're in, say, a deeper sleep. So I'll say your weak arm. Your weak arm's activity and motion equates on some level to how deeply or lightly you were sleeping. And that's great, because over a long period, you can look at that trend and figure out, am I sleeping better? Am I sleeping worse? And actually, with my Fitbit, when I use that for sleep tracking, because I would wake up at 3 a.m. every morning if I had been asleep, I would move enough that I was actually able to use the sleep data from a Fitbit to know that I was waking up at 3 in the morning. But these are very coarse tools. And so what I ended up doing was picking up a product called SleepScore Max. And this sits on the nightstand beside my bed. And it's using I think it's ultrasonic sound waves. So there's nothing physically in contact with your body, and it's using these sound waves, I believe, bouncing them off of you. So you can have your covers on, no problem. The sound waves still bounce off you. And the way they do this, it's like crazy accurate. So you get really good data about if you're awake, if you're sleeping lightly, if you're sleeping deeply, if you're in REM sleep, all of that sort of data you've got. And it's and then it goes back to your phone. And so you get these charts that show you your sleep patterns for the night. And so you can look at trends, and you can look at, like, okay, for this 45 minutes, I was in deep sleep. In this 45 minutes, or 10 minutes, I was awake. And all that data also goes into the health app. So I now can track all of my sleep activity in the health app. So we'll see if we can actually get that. There we go, kind of at an angle. All right, so that's last night's data. And I have only part of a week because I don't travel with this. So, there's several days of my sleep activity. And so I can look at all of this stuff right in the in the health app, as opposed to having to go just to the SleepScore app to look at all of it. Although I do look there as well. But the point being, I've got all of this data in one place. And it's really nice when I look at the Today tab, where I get this snapshot. Here's how many hours I slept last night. Here's how many flights of stairs I've climbed today. Here's how many steps I've taken already. And here's my resting heart rate and my walking heart rate average. Okay, so when I was walking around today, I was intentionally like walking really fast with purpose, because I'd been sitting around so much. Okay, so my walking heart rate today was 96 beats per minute, resting heart rate 62. And it's just right there in front of me. So that's my fast overview of the Today app, or excuse me, the Today tab. It's just a really nice place to get a snapshot of your activity.
MacVoices is supported by ExpressVPN. That makes me very happy, because privacy and security seem to come up in every single edition of MacVoices. Using a VPN is one of the easier ways to improve your odds against the bad guys, no matter where you are. That's because everyone wants to know what you're doing online. Social media sites, professional marketing firms, even your own internet service provider. They all have their reasons, which usually involve selling you something. And then there are the less ethical operations out there who want to sell your private information to even less ethical operations. With ExpressVPN, you can prevent that. Their simple-to-use iOS app can connect automatically, so you don't have to remember to set it up. Their powerful Mac OS app takes the same simple-to-use approach, but also includes sophisticated features, such as managing your connections on a per-app basis. ExpressVPN is the VPN I'm using now, and I've seen no slowdown in speed and no interference of any kind while I'm surfing from home, the office, or any local restaurant. You can have that same great, safe experience. Visit expressvpn.com/MacVoices right now and find out how you can get 3 free months with a 1-year subscription. Don't put it off and wait until you get hacked. Then it's too late. expressvpn.com/MacVoices and take back your internet privacy. Thanks to ExpressVPN for their support of MacVoices. Okay. I knew about part of that. I did not realize, though, that there were charts behind every tab. I mean, I don't know why I didn't know that, because it makes perfect sense. If it's there for one, it would be there for all. But I was not aware of that.
Well, it's not obvious.
Yeah. Interesting. One thing, though, I couldn't help but ask, and I'd be interested to know for other people, but I wear my watch on my dominant arm.
Okay.
Is it common not to?
It's more common to wear your watch on your not dominant arm.
Okay. Who knew?
It's aside from me, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it actually is a fairly common thing.
Okay.
And actually, that's one of the reasons why I like that Apple did the left-handed, right-handed thing for the Apple Watch, because if you're wearing your watch, let's see, I don't remember if you're left or right-handed.
I'm left.
Okay, so you're left-handed like me. So if you've been wearing your watch on your dominant arm, and you've had a watch that has a crown on it, your crown was always facing the right direction, because right-handed people tend to wear their watch on their left arm. So you have the crown facing towards your wrist, so it's easy to get at with your fingers without covering the watch face. When I used to wear a watch that had a crown on it, the crown was always facing up my arm instead of down towards my wrist. So it puts it in an awkward place. Apple doing the thing where you can say, here's the wrist I wear my watch on, and now the crown is facing the right direction. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
One of those little touches, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
How about if we talk about the Sources tab a little bit?
Yes, definitely. Let's do it.
Okay, so if you look at the Sources tab, this is going to show all of the apps that that can feed data into the Health app. Here's the trick, though. You have to launch the app at least once before it will show up in this list.
You have to launch the app at least once before it shows up.
Okay. Right. So here's an example. I have an app called HeartWatch, and it's something that I installed before we had Apple Watch Series 4, but I needed something that could give me more specific heart rate alert activity because of my allergy. So if I accidentally get dairy in me, one of the symptoms I have is that my cognitive skills drop off. And knowing me, I can't afford to lose any cognitive skills. So I may not be aware that I'm having heart-related problems. So one of the symptoms I have if I have dairy is that my heart rate jumps up like to 120 and just stays there, and that would be a resting heart rate. So if my heart rate jumps above a preset level, I don't have to wait for the for the built-in heart monitor alert thing from the Apple Watch to tell me that something's wrong, because that app, the Apple Watch heart monitoring thing for its alerts, you need to have 10 minutes. You have like no activity for 10 minutes and your heart rate suddenly changes and it has to jump above or below a certain range. With the HeartWatch app, my heart rate simply has to hit that point, and then I'll get an alert. And if it, so if it jumps too high, just out of the blue, and I get the alert, that tells me, all right, I need to stop and figure out what's going on. But anyhow, HeartWatch can feed into the Health app. And since I've launched it, it will show up as a source in that app list. If I had not launched it, it will not appear. Here's another one. Pokémon GO. Part of the idea of Pokémon GO is that you go outside and you walk around and you find Pokemon to catch, and then you go find a gym to do a Pokemon battle. You're outside walking around. So the data that the Pokemon Go app collects about your your walking activity can be fed back into the health app. I know, who knew? Video game. Health data for you.
Now, on my phone, as I'm sure it is on yours, as apps request permission to update your data, they will be added to the list.
Mm-hmm.
So when you launch that app, it's asking for permission, and it's asking within the app. It's not asking within the health app. So
right. So here's where you can see all those apps that have requested that permission. Let's see. Let's pick an app and take a look at it and see. Let's see. Okay. So, name an app that you have in that source list.
I have Sleep ++.
Okay. Good enough. Open up Sleep++. Just tap on the name.
Okay.
And now you'll see everything that it is reading. So, like when I look at the SleepScore Max app, that's my sleeping app. It can read data from my date of birth, my height, my sex, and my weight. Okay.
Okay. And this one is monitoring active energy, heart rates, sleep analysis, steps. That's what this particular app is pulling on mine.
Yeah. So you'll see that you have read data and write data essentially. So depending on what the app is, it may only want to write data, or it in some cases it just wants to read data back out, so that it can use that information to augment whatever data it's collecting. So as long as they're in that sleep tracking app for you, see the section where it says data?
Yes.
Tap that, and it may take a little bit for it to load, but now you get to actually see what it's collecting. So like in my case, it says sleep analysis. If there's multiple categories of things that it's collecting, you'll see all of that. So if I look at sleep analysis, what I'm getting is this collection of data. So I can see what it says about when I was in bed and when I was asleep. And then I can drill down even more. And here we go. So I've got all this data about what it was collecting. So you can see exactly what it is that each app is collecting for health data.
Yeah, I've got that. I've got the same thing here. That's really interesting, and I did not know that you could drill down that deep by app.
Yeah, it's nice. And if you have apps that were previously collecting data, but you no longer use and you've uninstalled, in that list of apps, there's an uninstalled apps section. So for me, I look at that and I see, all right, I was previously using the Bedit app because I was using the Bedit sleep sensor system until mine broke. Fitport, which is an app that presents all of your health app data or health kit data in a different interface that some people prefer to Apple's health app. So consider it an alternative to the health app. I had a Misfit for a little while, which is a wrist fitness tracker. I did the My Heart study. Remember Stanford's heart study?
Yeah, sure.
Bike Run Club Plus, and I tried Sleep Cycle for a little bit as a sleep tracking tool on my iPhone. So all of those are showing up as well. And I can go in and look and see all the data that each of those collected as well. So even though you have to drill down to find this information, there's a lot of transparency because you get to see everything that's been collected.
Well, and unfortunately, I mean, the drill down just it's by the nature of the iPhone interface that there's no way to put this up in a nice big beautiful 5K IMAX screen, but on the other hand, it's the kind of thing that you don't necessarily need to have it until you want it, or you want to dig down and find it,
Sure.
for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm definitely learning things here. There's a lot more depth to this than I realized.
And yeah, well, and now you know where to find these apps. You can see what data they're collecting. And if you choose, you can go in here and granularly turn on or off what it can read from the rest of your HealthKit data or what it can write to your HealthKit data.
All right. And then down below on mine, and this is kind of interesting, I have multiple Apple Watches and multiple iPhones.
I bet your list looks a lot like that.
Yep. And, most of those obviously are not. I mean, the first 3 Apple Watch entries are no longer valid because that's not the watch I have anymore.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
Yeah, I can't figure out which Apple Watch on the list is the one that I still have because I just haven't bothered to tap through all of them.
Yeah. But your phone has been tracking all this information all this time, which is not a bad thing. I mean, you're caught in this weird space where, gee, my phone is watching me and I didn't know it, versus I don't want to have to go in and turn all this stuff on. It just should be there, waiting for me to discover it, like we're doing now. So,
So now, what you can find in that collection of devices, if you find, choose your iPhone because that should be easy to find.
Right.
When you select that, you can look at the data that this specific device has collected. So if I look at, say, my walk run distance, it's broken down by day and time of day. Holy crap, there's tons of stuff in here. Okay. Man.
Yeah, this is real. I mean, I'm looking just at the entries for today. I mean, it's measuring, sometimes it's measuring in tenths of a mile, and others
sometimes it's just feet.
Yeah, there's 18.1. I moved 18.1 feet at 6:16 p.m.
All right, so maybe that's walking from your car into your living room, and then you stop moving again.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And if you need to edit something, basically meaning you want to remove a data point, you can go in here and take something out. And then the question is, why would you want to do that? Well, maybe you're using 2 devices that track the same thing. And the data from one is the data you actually want. And the data, say, from your phone is the data you don't want. You can go in and remove those data points that you don't actually want.
Okay. Interesting. So we have one more tab to go.
The Health Data tab.
And it seems like there's a lot of stuff in here.
There's a lot of stuff in here, yes. So if you see at the top, there's kind of a well, actually, this depends on how you've set this up. Right now, I have my heart data set as my favorite, but you can choose anything to be a favorite, really. And so the way you would do that, go ahead and tap on the Today tab again.
Okay.
And then pick one of the activities. So like maybe your steps. And you'll see right below the chart for that, it says add to favorites.
Right.
Okay, now that you've done that, hop back over to health or your heart health data. And great, now it's not working for me. Okay, well, that's all right. Um, I guess I'll just have to live with the fact that it's not going to work for me, right? Because that's how it goes when you're actually messing around with something and
Oh,
trying to show
sure.
something.
Yeah, if we're talking live demo, this is the way it's going to happen. But I see where how it should work.
Yeah. So anyhow, my health data is loaded up with heart stuff because for me, what I wanted, because I do want to watch my heart health since I had gone undiagnosed with apnea for so long. I just want a lot of data about my heart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
sense.
what I have set in there.
Right.
And now we've pretty much gotten through the tabs. And I want to take us off on a little side path again.
Okay.
So when you looked at that activity thing, it's the 3 rings. It's your movement, it's your exercise, and it's your standing activity. And for Apple, their philosophy on tracking your fitness is not about numbers. It's about this more kind of visual goal sort of thing where you're not worried about, say, counting steps. Well, to me, that's a big problem because I really need to count steps. That's actually a metric that I want to see all the time. And that's not really something that Apple is that interested in giving us. Not like they think it doesn't matter, but they just don't think that's the right way to look at your data. So I want to see my step count right on my watch face all the time on my Apple Watch. So what I did was I went and downloaded an app called Pedometer Plus Plus. And once that's installed and I launch it, so I can now give it access to my HealthKit data, it's now looking at all of my step count information because it's getting what my phone and my watch are tracking for steps. So it's not having to use some other device to do it. And then it just gives me a different interface for looking at it, which is great. What I really care about is that once you install the Pedometer Plus Plus app onto your Apple Watch as well, you now get a new complication, which is your step count and distance that you've walked. So that's how I show my step count on my Apple Watch. And the app is free. They do have an option for making donations, which is totally worth it if it's an app you're going to use.
And I can understand, but I guess the rings thing has always appealed to me because it is so visual that I'm looking at what percentage my goal is. It's almost a gamification of the health thing.
Oh, it totally is, and that's actually a good thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, because for most people, that's the incentive they need. I mean, they do like this and they say, oh man, my blue ring is 3/4 full, but my red ring is only half full. All right, I need to do some more stuff and close those rings. I come from an earlier time where all we had were the numbers, which is what Fitbit gave you.
Right.
And that, it turns out for me, that was the incentive that I needed when I first started working on getting myself healthy and fit again. I needed to see that daily step count. That was the goal that really worked for me. And when I lost that with my Apple Watch, it's crazy because almost immediately I stopped walking as much. So when I installed Pedometer Plus Plus, and could add that as a complication, then I started walking more again. And,
Hey,
and for me, it's the right thing, and I like that we have the option. Apple may not have built that in, but someone else made it so that it's easy, it's accessible, and affordable.
right. Yeah, and there's not to say that one is better or worse. It's just this is it's what works for you that's the most important.
Yes,
So,
and I like that flexibility.
yeah. Okay, so scrolling down here, I mean, and we're starting to run a little long, so I don't want to cut us off, but on the other hand, I want to make sure we get through some of the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
I just tapped nutrition, and I mean, you could spend a year in here looking at all this stuff.
Oh man, yeah, nutrition that can consume your world if you want it to. The cool thing about the nutrition is that it gives you a lot of options for tracking what you're eating and what you're drinking. And I think that's really important because a lot of people, they simply don't drink enough water. And making sure that you're getting enough is great. Here's the weird thing. We have evolved with an excellent alarm system to know when we need to drink water. It's called Thirsty.
Thank you, doctor.
But here's the thing: so many people ignore that built-in system. When you're thirsty, drink water. When you're not, okay, you don't need to drink water. But people don't do that, and I think that's played a big part in why we've seen these health guidelines. You need to drink X number of glasses of water a day, sort of thing. And it's not so much you need to drink that much water, or maybe you do, but it's more about you need to have a habit where you actually drink water, because it's very easy for us to ignore the thirsty alarm and get dehydrated. So adding something like that into the health app, I think is great, because it makes it a lot easier for a lot of people to keep track of whether or not they are drinking enough. And the rest of the nutrition stuff, it adds in accountability. And I think that's really important for a lot of people. It's so easy to eat throughout the day and think, I'm not eating that much, or I'm not eating things that are going to screw with my insulin, or whatever it is. But then if you have an easy system for logging all of this, it becomes much easier to figure out if you've actually eaten the way you thought you did. And there are a lot of other eating apps that will feed into here as well. So if there's some other app that works better for you, great, because there's a good chance it has Health Kit support, which means you can use that. And then if you want to look at all this data in a single place, then you hop over into the health app and there you go.
So I have to ask you about this one, because this is unusual. The mindfulness tab. Do you use the mindfulness tab, Jeff? I mean, is this something that has impacted your use of the app?
No, it hasn't.
Okay.
But I can't tell you why.
Well,
it's interesting. For whatever reason, I just really have not been really into that.
Well, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I know some of our friends are very much into yoga and different things. The Breathe app, it strikes me as something that probably is,
the Breathe app I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. It's
and at the same time, I use it surprisingly little, which tells me that I'm actually doing myself a disservice. because when that little thing pops up on my wrist and says, hey, take a minute and breathe, it's always coming up when I'm like really wound up and in something where maybe I'd be better off if I stopped and just kind of chilled for a minute. And yet, almost every single time, I just kind of flip that, swipe down, make it go away, and go on with my day. But yeah, I mean, I like that it's there. I like that they have the recommended apps. I do have Headspace installed. That's kind of funny. I should be using it. I also picked up a Muse, which is really interesting. It's this headband that you put on, and it has sensors that run across your forehead and temples. And then the app, the idea is you need to relax your mind and get into a meditative state. And they've kind of gamified it also, which is really effective for some people. For me, I had to turn the gamification off because I started getting stressed because I wasn't making my birds chirp. But you can have data like that feeding in here, and that will go into the mindfulness data as well.
Yeah, and I'm intrigued. I mean, going through here, we have activity, we have nutrition, we have sleep. A little farther down, body measurements, health records, heart, reproductive health, results, vitals, and in there is mindfulness in a big, I guess it's almost like a seafoam green kind of tab. So clearly somewhere, and it's not just like Apple to do this because they're from California and that whole vibe. This must be something that the health professionals take very seriously, and maybe we should too.
Yes, and that's to go along with that. This is also where you can look at the health records information. So if your healthcare provider is supporting HealthKit for health records, then you can get at that information as well. And actually, I'm looking at it right now. Oh, holy crap. I forgot Kaiser was added in there. All right. That's my healthcare provider. I'm actually going to add that in when we're done with the show. All right. So you are adding in your emergency contact info, and I'm going to link up all of my health data, which is actually going to make sharing my my EKG data with my doctor even easier.
And I'll tell you, this is something that every time I walk into a doctor's office of whatever kind of specialty, you've got to go through the same process of listing out all the things that you've ever had, from the broken leg you had as a kid, the whole way up to any problems you had last week. And it just seems crazy that there's not some kind of standard. I'm scrolling through here, and I'm very impressed at the number of things that in my area it looks like are supported. And so, good for them. And
this is great.
You almost want to go to the doctor's office and say, here, get on board with this. I mean, this is the future. And one reason we would want to encourage the Apple version of that is their focus on privacy. I mean, if you have any HIPAA concerns, Apple's the one you want to go with because they keep things as private as possible. So, yeah, I haven't really dug into this, and I should, because kind of amazing all the stuff that's in here.
Yeah, this is great. So that's funny because I remember looking earlier and thinking, man, I really wish that that Kaiser Permanente was in here, and now they are. So I'm going to tell myself that was a recent addition, knowing full well I may have written an article about it before, in the before time, before I worked for Smile.
Yeah. Yeah. there's so much here, Jeff. I mean, I'm so glad we had a chance to talk with you, and we could go on and on for a long time because there's so many different things here. And I want to encourage everyone, go digging with this. Maybe we'll come back again and just dig a little farther. But
Sure.
it's sitting there. Take advantage of it. And I just found out that it's been tracking a whole lot of things that I didn't even know it was tracking.
Yeah, isn't that cool though? Because your phone and your Apple Watch are able to collect all this data and just tuck it away for you securely.
And again, we talked about it a little before, but it's doing it automatically, and that may, at first glance, that may make you a little uncomfortable, but it makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Because again, it's not the kind of thing you're necessarily going to turn on, and you may never use this information, but if you need it. If you ever really, and I do mean need, it's right there for you. So, kudos to Apple for building all this stuff in, and maybe a little bit of a slight thumbs down for not educating us more, just a little bit on it. But hopefully we've filled in some of that gap for them.
Yeah, I'm with you. Apple really needs to work on that education part. I don't have a good solution for how they do that. But I feel like the features that we have in the Health app and with HealthKit in general are so big and so important. And there needs to be more information out there. And Apple should be a big part of that.
Yeah, agreed. So, Jeff, you haven't been here for a little while, but I want to make sure folks know where they can find you now on social media and everywhere else, because you're so much fun to follow. So, where would that be?
Well, if you want to go to a website, I'm the Text Expander Evangelist, so you can go to textexpander.com or smilesoftware.com. If you want to hang out with me on social media, I'm Jay Gamet on Twitter and Instagram. I'm pretty easy to find.
Yes, and I just saw a picture of you with your grandmother. I think
she turned 102 a couple days ago.
So you've got great genes, Jeff. Congratulations.
It's, okay. So, when my grandmother turned 99, everyone was going off about, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was saying, well, this is actually kind of normal for my family. When she had her 100th birthday party, I mean, it was a huge blowout because it's 100. And so partway through the party, I asked my grandmother, so what are we doing for 101? And she said, oh, we'll have another cake. And at her 101st birthday, I said, so let's do it again next year. And she said, yes. And so here we are. and I mean, the age and time, it's catching up with her now. I mean, she's 102 years old. But still, when we were having our family party for her, we a bunch of us got together and had lunch with her. Before the lunch started, I went to the head of the table because, of course, that's where she should be. And I said, hey, grandmother, let's do a selfie together. You'll be internet famous. And she says, that sounds great.
Well, and hopefully we just contributed to that too.
Yeah. Well, the likes on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter for her, I would say it's been a pretty popular post. I think that we can declare my 102-year-old grandmother internet famous now.
And so if you use the Health app, I don't know if you'll get internet famous like Jeff's grandmother, but maybe you'll just improve your odds a little bit. Because I know I've been to one 100th birthday party, and it is really cool, and it makes you take a step back and kind of look at where you are in your life and think, wow, I want to get there, or I at least want to live well while I'm around.
Yes. And yeah, she's had a great life so far. And I hope that when I'm 102, I can say the same.
I agree. I agree. Well, I hope you will be back more often. Than it just seems like the last couple months have slid by. But I really appreciate you coming by and sharing all this information about the health app, and just stay healthy.
Chuck, I always love hanging out with you. You are so much fun. So I am happy to hop in anytime you want.
All right, you got it. I'll be pestering you.
I have no doubt. I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks. You rock.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. We will be back with more. But in the meantime, if at the very least, go put that critical initial information in. You never know when you might need it. I hope you don't, but you never know when you might.
Yeah, better to be prepared.
Amen. Amen. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our MacVoices Facebook group and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us at patreon.com/MacVoices and join these folks who help keep MacVoices coming to you. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.